Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
One of the stories I really have never shared. Back it was 1986. I know it was right after my grandfather had passed. Not right after, but it was probably 6 months or so after my grandfather had passed. I had a cousin commit suicide. And I still remember the call from my father. I was off at law school. My cousin was in Chicago, where most of our family was from. I was down in Columbus, Ohio, which was about 6 hours away. And it was devastating, and I'd heard of suicide before and knew of people who committed suicide. Never really gave it much thought, but when it hits that close to home, and he was about my age, it really got me thinking. I remember driving up to Chicago for the services, just thinking, okay, where do you get to this point? But as I learned more, I started to realize that he was all alone when it happened, and there were a lot of things not going well in his life, and I won't get into all of that. But we don't take that fateful step, that horrific step, amongst other people. And I have an uncle who my cousin reached out to, not his father, but another uncle, and he just felt bad. He's like, yeah, he wanted to talk to me. I said, I'll talk to you in the morning. And if I would have just taken the time, maybe things would have been different. And this is a program about relationships and certainly networking. We think about that in business, but business is hard. And not that people get to the point that they're going to take their own lives, but it can be it can be a point of despair. So anyhow, today I have a guest on, Dr. Keith McNally, and he is the author of a book called Walking the Path, A Leader's Journey, and it's a leadership book focused on personal development. And he's on a mission to eradicate the negative impact of suicide by serving to provide help, hope, and healing for those who are looking at that. And he's also got podcasts, and we'll jump into all of that. But the main focus of today's topic is just really community as a lifeline. Keith, welcome to the program.
Man, you said a lot.
I did.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, talk to me. You got this book. You have this mission. You work a lot with vets. We were talking a lot. We always note to the audience out there, there's always a lot of chatter before you hit record on these things. A lot of chatter, and the one thing that's usually said is, "Oh, we should have hit record." Right? We should have hit record because there's always a lot of good stuff beforehand.
I tell you what, if you and I always say that and always do that, our entire life would be on record. And so I don't know if I want to do that all the time, but we do miss a lot of, critical things that, we say, and we wish we had this, automatic playback button in the air that says, hey, I want to hear that again. I want to listen to that again.
Yeah.
And so where do we want to get started in this conversation? Because you just kind of jumped into the deep end, but just to clarify for the audience a couple of things. And so, one, I made 2 suicide attempts against my life since 2013. And so for the past, 11, 12 years.
Yeah.
Two big ones. I also want to add that I had a heart attack in October of 2022. So if anybody's out there seen the movie series Final Destination, where death is always coming after you,
that's you.
I've beat it 3 times so far. And so I do say some of that tongue in cheek, but I do recognize the seriousness of all that's been going on in my life. And you're right. And so there are 2 things to consider if we're going to jump into the deep end of what suicide is and how it really impacts us and how it impacted me, and why I've used that to kind of shift into a world of community and connecting.
Yeah.
One, there are 2 sides to the coin around suicide. So it's a mental health related issue, and there are mental health diagnoses and medications and therapists and all of that's appropriate. So if that's really where the need is, then let that be a need and a service provider to help you through difficult situations. For me, I don't have a mental illness. I don't have a mental health diagnosis. Life gets really sucky sometimes and it implodes. Um, and what causes me is that deep isolation that I don't have the resources. I should say, have the resources to deal with those variables that kind of hit hard and hit fast and hit all at the same time. The only way out is
Yeah.
suicide.
Yeah. And where I, well, this can go wherever it goes. This is not network television where everything is scripted, and that's good and it's bad. But I do really want to have a conversation around, you just said it, life is sucky. And life is sucky for people who, uh, the corporate executive, life is sucky for the person who's just got a rank and file job. It's sucky. Everybody, people in business. I remember talking to somebody, it was during the pandemic, and there was a lot going on during the pandemic, and talking to a guy, and he just said, I kind of thought about it, and I just realized that maybe, just maybe, I'm worth more to my family, meaning life insurance, than alive.
Yeah.
And this is a normal person. And it really rocked me to my core, because it's like, okay, I'm not close to that. I don't think I am. But what has hit this guy that he would even entertain that thought? Um, and knowing that there are lots of people out there who probably have it worse. There are probably, and not thinking that, and there are probably lots of people out there that would say, "Hey, no, don't be thinking that. We're here for you. Don't do that." Um, and I think, again, this is a program on relationships and networking. And I think with the resources you have and just the knowledge, we can solve a lot of problems.
Well, then let's talk about the solution here, at least my offer of a solution. So
Okay.
from 2021, when I made my last attempt against my life and didn't succeed, I needed to make some changes. And so what I had found with myself is that I had isolated myself in a lot of different ways. And so professionally, you know, was never good at networking. We're all professionals and we all have our different networking groups. I sucked at it. Not
Mm,
very good at it at all. Friendships, we had kind of went through COVID, quarantine.
yeah.
And even at that, my profession since 2010 was a college professor. I am a doctor. I'm a doctor of education, so I'm not a medical doctor.
Right.
So in that, if you've ever talked with anybody who spent their time in the classroom, which is where I spent my time, we tend to be isolated, even amongst our own, peer group.
Yeah.
We isolate ourselves with research and, publications and, classroom lesson plans and all that even at the college level. So it's kind of isolated. What I recognized is that if I was to survive another implosion in my life, I'm going to need to make a whole lot of friends.
Right.
And so what I decided to do was kind of reach out to my LinkedIn network one by one. And again, thinking where we are, tail end of COVID through the quarantine. And I just asked people if you wanted to do a Zoom call, just like we're doing now. Do you want to jump on a Zoom call? Now it was slow at first, but people were saying yes. And the people that were saying yes were those people who were making intentional pivots and changes in their life. They had saw what COVID had done
Mm-hmm.
on two sides of the coin. And so I'm going to real quick explain those two sides and how they chose to make changes. So the one side of the coin is they lost. There was a loss, whether it was uh, loss of family, friend, literally people died through
Yeah.
COVID. So they lost somebody they knew, lost a job, lost money, lost house, whatever that loss was, they needed to figure out how to survive. To do that, they needed to do something differently. And they chose to do something differently rather than medicate the numbness and the hurt through drugs or alcohol addiction, whatever that is. They were making positive changes. The other side of that coin is when they woke up every day and looked in the mirror, who they wanted to become was not who they saw. I mean, they had acquired stuff. They had acquired the monies, the retirement, the houses, and the cool job, and they climbed the corporate ladder. But here we are, isolated and alone in our own homes.
Right.
And they were thinking, it's all, I mean, I like having the money, I like having the houses, but it has no real value to me anymore. They
Right.
were forced to say, I wanted to do something valuable with my life. And they were making those changes. And so from both sides of the coin, we were making changes. And I was having these conversations with people, and it was really cool. I could continue.
Interesting. No, I think that's great. I think it's I think we I th we've all gone through it to a certain degree. I mean, maybe not to that point where we're considering to ending our lives, but it's so easy, especially in the social media era, to think like everybody's got it great. Because nobody gets on social media and says, you know what, I had a mediocre day and everything was average. I didn't get praised at work. I didn't get it, whatever. Um, we all have kind of that in our lives. Where those things don't make social media. I should say it's generally the really good things.
Or the really bad things.
Yes.
So we'll emphasize the extremes
Yes.
because they bring in numbers, they bring in likes, and they bring in support,
Yeah.
whether applause or emotional support.
And I think people get addicted to it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like any addiction. It kind of ramps itself up. But I love what you did. You just get out and you start talking to people, and you know, there are people out there.
There are. Yeah. And what I was doing, not on a conscious level, but a subconscious level, was healing. I was actually I was learning from everybody's transition. I was learning from everybody's own hurt. I was learning from people's trials and tribulations and how they pivoted, how they changed, how they overcame, how they endured
Hmm.
the hard times in order to find the good times. And so, over 1,000 conversations, not all of them recorded, not all of them on my YouTube channel, not all of them a podcast, but many conversations, since that time have allowed me to become vocal with my own mediocre days, my
Right.
own struggles, my own powerlessness, my own failures, my own fears. And so I'm now able to come on podcasts and conversations like these and say, I've been there, you know, I've made it through. You know what? If we have a conversation, if we have a conversation, and that's key, it's not, oh, things will be better tomorrow. They may not be.
Right.
But if you and I could jump on a call and we can have a conversation, we may be able to change today. And that's what matters.
Yeah.
We may be able to connect today. And that's what's important. You may find value in what I have to say. Heck, you may even look at my background and start laughing because because this is not a video. Your audience should know I've got Legos behind me.
Lots of Legos.
I'm a 54-year-old man and I play with Legos. Dig on. Absolutely. Because I've found that by investing my time away from my mental energies and apply them into something that I could do with my hands, it's a really good thing.
And you probably learned that from somebody.
I did actually. I've learned
Well,
that play, even as an adult, I've learned it from quite a few people. Play as an adult is an important thing to do.
it just underscores the point is that the people around us have the solutions. There's the support, there's the solution, it's all there. And obviously COVID, knock wood, is in the rearview mirror, but there is still moments of isolation and moments of loneliness, moments of whatever. I was having a conversation, and I've been self-employed since '95. So what are we talking, 30 years now? And I was talking to somebody, and I'm like, yeah, it's you. They were telling me that somebody had got let go, or they were working, and they felt really bad for them. I'm like, yeah, I feel bad for them too. But you know what? When you're a self-employed, you're getting you're meeting with failure every day. It's every day you're getting fired by a client or not hired by a client, and the person's like, "Well, when have you ever failed?" And it's like, "Oh my gosh, you must really see my life as through rose-colored glasses." Not everything works out. Most things don't work out. I just have enough people around me to know that that's just the way it is, and what choice do I have? Just continue on.
And that is probably critical both in the entrepreneurial world, and I don't think I said that right, but professional world
Yeah.
and personal world, because you may have a plethora of, clients lining up at your door. So you can pick and choose. I want to work with this one. I don't want to work with this one. In life, we may not get that opportunity. We
Yeah.
may not have the opportunity to say, well, I want this person in my life. I don't want this person. And we make choices. But if we close the door in too many relationships, too many potential relationships, and we continue to isolate ourselves, life becomes difficult. We need, that connection. We need to have those conversations. Now, I'm a man, 54, like I said, I'll be 55 this probably by the time this gets released. So I've lived a lot of my life. And as a man, we say, well, you're supposed to hold all of your emotions and your feelings inside. And you know what? The rate of suicide for men, white men, my age, older, retired, is on the increase. Rates of suicide for men between 18 and 25 is on the increase. Suicide across religions, nationalities, genders. We're struggling as a race at this point
Yeah.
because things are problematic. And my mission, now I typically say, and you read it prior to coming online, is to eradicate it. Now I may not be able to do that, but my mission is to have the conversations that need to be had so that people know that they have purpose and value. That when they wake up every day, they have purpose and value, and they could explore what that means because of that one conversation.
Well, and you there's this saying out there. A friend of mine, Dr. Rob Bell, he hit me with this. He didn't come up with it, but he hit me with it. He said you can count the number of seeds in an apple, but you can't count the number of apples in a seed. And by you doing what you do and just saving one life, and then that life going on and helping other, it's incalculable, the good that that brings to the world.
I think
It's
they call that
inspiring.
the ripple effect now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Um, Eventually, yeah, whatever. But yeah, it's a powerful thing. Any advice for, you obviously you turned to LinkedIn. I mean, are there other avenues, things that you would recommend people do?
So there are different stages to breaking down, and there are different stages to rebuilding. And so one needs to know that your listening audience needs to know I'm not a crisis responder. So if somebody's out there, or somebody's out there, 988 is the crisis hotline at this point. So pick up your cell phone, call 998, or go to the online, and I could kind of give you that
Hmm.
website offline. Um, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay not to know. It's okay to go hide in your closet because I know I've done that a couple of times. What I've learned in all of those conversations, and I've had some really critical conversations. Sometimes we cried, sometimes we get angry, sometimes we find hope because somebody says, you know what? You're a good person. You know what? You've got a daughter out there who loves you. I do. I've got a 14-year-old daughter who loves me. You know what? you're going to find a job. I guarantee it. Now, they may be saying things out of line, but they're giving you a word of hope for today. So the things that I typically say to people is you got to do two things every day. And this is preached to me over and over again. You got to breathe. As
Yeah.
long as you're breathing, you can move forward. And as long as you're moving forward, show up. Which means show up to that next conversation, show up to that next job interview, show up to that next networking event, show up to whatever you got to show up for, no matter how difficult it is. Because it's eventually you show consistency, you show perseverance, you develop your character every time you show up. And it's that character that both you and the world sees. So if that character is consistent, you're going to develop those relationships, that know, like, and trust relationship, that triad that we talk about
Yep.
on LinkedIn or across, our social media world. Know, like, trust. But you know what you got to do? Show up. Show
Awesome.
up every day.
Well, let's shift gears. How can the audience help you? You're on a mission. What can they do to help you with this mission?
I've got a mission to help veterans. And so I'm a U.S. Marine veteran.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I know the difficulties. Now, I'm targeting veterans specifically because I'm a veteran, but this can go beyond just being a vet. And so I am creating a Walking the Path, the name of my book, walkingthepath.net, Walking the Path community. And so specifically, there are 6 areas of need that every veteran needs to be successful. And of course, physical health, emotional and mental health. So I call it well-being because mental health is a different stigma. So being strong emotionally, being strong mentally, being strong physically. They need a job. They need a house to live in.
Right.
And they need purpose in life. And so with these 6 elements of their life, I'm looking for service providers, anybody out there. So if you're a wholeness, wellness, some type of coach, you provide whatever service, help somebody get a job, help somebody find a house, whatever that looks like. You don't have to be a realtor, but maybe you know people who could kind of help you get into the space that you can be successful. I want to put your profile and your contact information on my website so that when veterans come to this hub, they know where they can go to find help.
Okay. I got 2 people for you.
Appreciate that.
I will email you. Be on the lookout, James Van Proyen and Shane Hicks. I will connect you guys. Cool. It'll happen long before this comes out, but I'll tell them to listen to it anyways. Best way to get a hold of you at your website, drkeithmcnally.com?
Probably not now because that's being rebuilt. I'm trying to get on stage, so I'm redeveloping that as a speaker.
Okay.
As a speaker site, primarily because I was told that if it doesn't look like a speaker site, you're probably not going to get on stage. The best way to contact me is on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Dr. Keith McNally. So DrKeith McNally.
Okay. I will put that in the show notes.
Cool. That is the best way to connect with me.
All right. Yeah, that's great. Appreciate your time today. This has been great. Thank you very much. Inspiring.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.